In this month's episode of the AnimeCons.com podcast, we report from PortConMaine. Greg Ayres sits down with us to talk conventions. We'll tell you how to import our con schedule, plus news and upcoming conventions. Sketches on assignment in Siberia. I'm Shiva, and this is the AnimeCons.com podcast for July 2009. We are saddened to report that Robert DeHazes' younger sister, Giselle, has lost her battle with cancer after 10 years. We at AnimeCons.com offer our deepest condolences to the Hazes family in the time of their grief. OhioCon is leading a fund and raising effort to help out with the medical bills, funeral expenses, and for Giselle's 10-year-old daughter. We ask if you are able, please make a donation to the Hazes family. You can learn more at ohiocon.org. In Northeast Convention news, Hartford's Kineticon has announced that actors Angie Hill and Michelle Knotts have been added to this year's guest list. Voice actor and artist Sonny Strait and artist Svetlana Chimakova will be guests at this year's BakuratsuCon in northern Vermont. New York Anime Festival has announced Japanese guests Yoshiyuki Tomino and Yuma Kino for their convention this September. Heading down south, Otakon has spammed us with guest announcements this month. Recent additions to the guest list include musical performers Mel, Vamps, and Becca, voice actors Kikyo Inoue, Crispin Freeman, and Travis Willingham, directors Yutaka Yamamoto, Misao Maruyama, Nobuo Ishiguro, animator Hidori Matsubara, producer Yukio Kiyukawa, Misako Rocks, and writer Fred Schote. Anime Week in Atlanta has announced guests Troy Baker, Jeannie Breeden, Robert and Emily DeHazes, Caitlin Glass, Carl Horn, Amy Howard Wilson, Vic Mignogna, Misako Rocks, Neil Nadelman, Jonathan Tarbucks, and David Williams. NecoCon has announced guest voice actors Richard Epcar and his wife Ellen Stern, as well as a musical performance by Suicide Ali. ZonaCon has also announced Richard Epcar and Ellen Stern, as well as two new events, Wake Up the Dead Rave and Rave from the Grave. Terrence T.C. Carson, the voice of Kratos from the God of War series, will be the guest of honor at EXP Convention, along with actors Steve Downs, Vic Mignogna, and Troy Baker. Stan Japan has announced additional guests, including voice actors Kyle Hebert, Jonathan Joss, and friends of the show, Samantha Inouye Hart. Over in the Midwest, SojinCon has announced guests Chris Ayres, Greg Ayres, Samantha Sangster, Fred Grom, Josh Grohl, Carly Mosier, Studio Oni's Shannon and Richard Townsend, and members of the Tiger Rock Taekwondo Dojo. Rawr. Wisconsin's GeekCon has announced attendance of steampunk mystery group Steam Century and the band Fermata. And rounding out the Midwest, Northern Michigan Anime Convention has announced popular guest Vic Mignogna will be appearing at their convention. He gets around this year. For additional details about any of these announcements, please visit AnimeCons.com. Hi, I'm Shiva, and we're coming to you this month from PortConMaine, New England's oldest anime and gaming convention. After relocating briefly to downtown Portland last year, PortConMaine has returned to the Wyndham Hotel Suites in South Portland for this year's 8th convention.
Hello Kitty always says you can never have too many friends. I think you can never have too many Hello Kitty toys. It's about the same thing. And by the way, if you stay for the end of the panel, there is candy. There's Hello Kitty candy at the end of the panel.
I was recently in a movie with Brad Pitt called Tree of Life that should be coming out later on this fall. This summer I'm going to be in Predators and in Sin City 2. So I'm excited.
Really? You do stunt work?
She's licensed.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Crashes through windows and
Well, that's
stuff.
awesome. You do driving stunts and cannon car blowovers.
I haven't done any driving stunts yet. I've trained to do those. I normally do like sugar glass stuff.
Right.
I normally do pullback machines. I normally do a lot more of the aerial stuff.
That is very cool.
Okay, that is very cool. And here is a big how that is different from voice acting thing. In voice acting, if I'm doing the voice of a character who goes through a window, I don't get hurt. I just stand through and I yell. It's awesome. And I don't have to have a license to do that or anything or training. And Sammy was talking about working on was it Shorts, right?
Yeah.
Where she crashed through a window and got trampled by people. And like, oh, you know, in voice acting, there's no crashing through windows, getting trampled by people. So there's a big difference.
Really?
Voice acting.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Look, it's our host.
Yeah, the host. When I say I'm at an art study table, this is what I mean.
He's making really cool art. That is awesome. What are you making?
There'll be Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal.
Oh, awesome.
As always with Anime Unscripted, there's audience participation, so a few of you might have a chance to have the spotlight thrust upon you and end up being the object of ridicule amongst all your friends. So, good luck with that. Grant! Samantha Inouye Hart! Jacka! And Sketch!
Football players, so it's time to make them some perfect sandwich sliders. You can make them out of beef. You can make them out of anything you want. On to the U. Buy it. Oh wait, if you go to the weather now, we'll include 2 more days of rain.
Thank you. Well, in the weather forecast today, there have been a lot of asteroids coming straight at us. Captain, we have to avoid them. Okay, and it looks like there are some Klingons coming up off the starboard bow. And no, that's really bad, because it's bad for my complexion to be in too much Klingon radiation.
You can see by the graph the instances of kabuki theater occurring in the Soviet Union, for some strange reason, has come down since the year 2003. We thought there would be a burst of popularity, considering that they don't really have any other entertainment in the Soviet Union. Next slide, please. Now, our science department assured us that kabuki theater stimulates certain parts of the brains that the Soviets would find appealing, such as warmth, vodka, and overseas marriage. Next slide, please.
Just to get tickets, just for the hope that they could get a ticket to the Kabuki Theater. You can see they're waiting for miles and miles in line to get those tickets because they're hardcore fans. It's even more overwhelming, like a Backstreet Boys concert. None of that has anything on these Kabuki Theater fans because they love it. And we'll see that further demonstrated in our next slide, I believe. You are familiar with the brilliant actor Neil Patrick Harris from his work as Doogie Howser and Dr. Horrible, but you might not have known that he actually got his start in Kabuki Theater.
Here comes podcast. I'll play Ticket to Ride.
I have some beautiful dresses. And what's gonna happen is they're gonna go change. This one going to... Are you ready to see our beautiful women? Come on up.
I was you yesterday. Yeah.
Again this year, I'm your host, Jekka. That was kind, thank you.
And I'm Steve.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, I don't get it.
I'm telling them, my name is Luigi, not Mario.
You shouldn't have came in. What's in this box? It is cake mix.
Who said that?
Don't worry about it.
Commencing Operation Happy Meal. Welcome to Kentucky Fried McBurger Queen.
I want a number 6 and some fries.
Okay!
Okay, it's Sunday, the con's over, and we're getting ready to head out. We had a fantastic time. The rain let up a little bit, but now it's starting again, so I think I'm gonna go.
We're at Anime Boston with Greg Ayres.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you a bunch of fun questions.
Awesome.
So everyone can learn more about you. What was the first anime convention you attended as a guest?
Since the first anime convention I attended as a guest was such a horrible experience, I will say, not Project ACON, but Anime Mid-Atlantic. My first convention I went to was one of those cons. It was just too big for its britches. It was Project ACON in Dallas. And when a con gets larger, you have to make adjustments to the way you run your con. You can't just always do it the way it's always been done. And unfortunately, the guests took a hit that year. And it was really hard for me because I'm used to being an attendee, not a guest. So it was my first time being a guest, and I kind of didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, and there were people that really weren't taking care of me. So it was kind of funny because, you know, ACON is one of the oldest conventions in the country, which kids, older doesn't mean better. But it's one of the oldest conventions in the country, and then the following week, I would go to a convention in my hometown, which is Richmond, Virginia, which was a very small convention comparatively, and, you know, small budget. I think there were only 2 guests, myself and Doug Smith. And yet, for a con that was so much smaller and had such a smaller budget, they made me feel at home. The kids there were nice. The events were fun to go to. I even went to other people's panels. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go see, you know, this person's panel. And so, like, it's kind of bad that my first convention experience as a guest was so bad, because also when you're in an interview, always make sure you turn off your phone. It's my mom.
So you went to conventions before as an attendee.
Uh-huh.
You've always been a fan of anime. What were some of your first convention experiences?
My big out-of-state convention, and believe it or not, they've never invited me as a guest, is AnimeZment in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. But we were there the year that, I can remember, year 2000, we were there for, or maybe it wasn't 2000, it might have been 99. It was the year they had Rachel Lillis as a guest. And we were just like, they've got Jigglypuff! You know, like, I remember, and the funny thing is now, it's really funny being a fan and going to conventions as an attendee and now working with and being friends with so many people in the industry. I found my AnimeZment program, and Brett Weaver was a guest that year. And I wrote something that I cannot say on a podcast above his picture. And we had this discussion. He goes, you were at that convention? I was like, yeah. I was like, evidently you and I didn't like each other. And I think I was one of those obnoxious kids that, like, Brett evidently was like, shut up, or something. But it's so funny because I was like, yeah, I wrote something horrible above your picture. He's like, well, I was probably being bad that way. Like, he thought it was funny, but it's been really weird because so many people that I used to see, so many people I used to get in the line to see are now people that I work with and people I'm friends with.
Now, what's the furthest you've traveled to a convention as a guest?
So far, England. I went to Leicester, which was really fun. The convention was a little weird, but I loved the fans in England. and I found out I may be going back pretty soon, and I'm hoping so, because it's a little more well-organized convention, but the kids there reminded me of anime fans in the US about 8 years ago. You know, and it's funny because me, like, being the person that's, like, you know, always crusading against fan subs and things like that, and I'm so used to American fans being so, you know, well, we can't get it fast enough or whatever. The British kids were, the British kids were just so excited about any anime, you know, because they really have to wait. Like, I was there, like, way after Alchemist had been out, and it was just being released there. And, like, so they were excited because Trinity Blood was about to come out here, and I had the check disc, so they were seeing Trinity Blood, like, probably a year before they would really see it on DVD, so they were just like, ah!
What types of questions do you like being asked by fans?
Ones I've never heard before, definitely, because I think being a voice actor, there's like, we jokingly say there's like 7 questions that we get at every single show.
Become a voice
and
actor.
Yeah, that's number one. And it's not that it's, and I always try to answer those questions because I know it's the first time that person's, you know, I used to be a teacher, so I'm like, well, there's no such thing as a dumb question. But when you've answered the same question like a million times, you're like, well, except that one. But, you know, I try to answer that question, but it's just something that I feel like I've repeated so many times. When I start saying it, I can kind of check out. I like questions that make me think. I like being asked about things that are maybe anime related, but not specifically like anime, like, you know, like not specifically about a show I'm working on, but like what other anime shows I like or something like that. Variety, I guess. Like I like a variety of questions, just not the usuals.
Is there a convention you'd like to go to but haven't yet?
Oh, there's lots of them, but I'm a big Canada fan. I'm almost nerdy about Canada, which is funny because I'm not from Canada. I'd love to go to a convention in Vancouver because that was the city that made me fall in love with Canada. I've been to ICON in Winnipeg 2 years. This is my first year not going in a while, but so I'd like to do more conventions in Canada. I was asked, there's a group of kids from Newfoundland that wrote to me that they're like, if you ever get a chance, and I'm like, I'd love to go to Newfoundland. One of my favorite things about going to conventions is I like seeing different places. So like any remote location that I've not been, it's probably like you could say, hey, you want to go to Monkey's Eyebrow, Kentucky? And I'd be like, yes!
Okay, that's all I have.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys. That was
great.
fun. Thank you for watching. I'm in the process of dyeing my hair. Right now it's just blue and pink.
We match.
We match.
Before we get to our Q&A, we want to thank our sponsor, DreamHost. DreamHost is currently offering new subscribers unlimited bandwidth, disk space, plus 50 gigabytes for backups, unlimited email accounts, unlimited SQL databases, 1 free lifetime domain registration, and more for as low as $5.95 per month. Enter code ANIME2 when you sign up and get $10 off your order. Some restrictions, fine print right there, do apply. So see site for details. Learn more at dreamhost.com. This month's question was posted on the AnimeCons.com forums by Isaac Alexander. He asks, is it possible to add another RSS feed to the site? Another site has added a really neat feature to their site. Besides a standard news RSS feed, they added a calendar RSS feed. Here with his response is AnimeCons.com's webmaster, Patrick D.
Thanks, Shiva. Now, AnimeCons.com has an RSS feed for our news, and our forums have some RSS feeds, but we don't have one for our event listing. But what we do have is an iCalendar file. What that is, there's a file format that's specifically for calendar events. And so we export our database for upcoming events into this iCalendar format. And other sites or individual users can use this file to put our convention listings into their own calendars. So for example, if you're on a Mac and you use iCal and you want to import that to carry around in your iPhone, then you can add this file as another calendar similar to how you'd add holidays or other external events. You just add this .ics file, and it will automatically import any updates. You can also do this in Outlook and Google Calendar and any number of other calendar programs. It's a standard format, and it's much better for listing events than an RSS feed. If you're interested in adding this, the URL for the calendar file is right down here. And any questions about this or anything else on AnimeCons.com or anime conventions in general, please send us email at podcast@animecons.com. One last thing we want to mention, check out our other podcast, The Chibi Project. In that we destroy anime toys for no good reason. New episodes come out every other Wednesday. You can find it at chibiproject.com or search iTunes for Chibi Project.
In this month's episode of AnimeCons, I can't look at it and do it at the same time. Out west, this year's Anime Expo has also flooded. Okay, gotcha. Oh,
They flooded. Oh my god.
Svetlana Chimakova. Oh, sounds like you should play tennis. Unlimited bandwidth, unlimited dick space, plus 50.
Google Calendar, any number of other calendar programs, and there you go.
You had a fantastic time. Someone's coming to the door. Hey, let's just do it. If I mess up as much as sketch. Okay.